You're not tired because you're weak. You're tired because your brain has been operating in survival mode for too long. Chronic fatigue, mental fog, emotional exhaustion, these aren't just byproducts of a busy life. They're signals, messages from your nervous system telling you something is off. Your fatigue is not a flaw in your character or a sign that you're weak. It is a signal, an encoded message from your nervous system that something is misaligned between how you were created and how you're living. The brain, divinely engineered, is not just a processor of thoughts. It is a command center for energy, drive, and purpose. When it sends out fatigue, it is not asking you to quit. It is warning you that your systems are running against their design. From the moment you wake up, your body is meant to be activated by the light literally and spiritually. The retina receives natural light and sends a powerful message to the hypothalamus. It is time to rise, to rule, to move with intensity. If you block that light, if your day begins in darkness on a screen, in confusion, then your brain remains dormant, waiting for the order that never comes. The Creator embedded within us a system that craves alignment. The way you breathe, the way you move, what you focus on, what you avoid, all of it is recorded in the neural circuits that govern energy. Fatigue is not a simple lack of sleep. It is the consequence of ignoring divine design. The modern world has made artificial the things God made natural. Light replaced with LED screens, rest replaced with restless scrolling, movement replaced with stagnation, deep work replaced with distraction. But inside of you is still the original system, untouched and waiting to be reawakened. Your brain has the switch to flip this all back. Neurons that fire when the body moves in purpose, synapses that sharpen when you choose hard things over comfort, neurotransmitters that flood your bloodstream when you act with courage instead of fear. Energy is not a random luxury. Sure. It is your birthright. And the brain has been wired by a higher order to generate that energy through obedience. Obedience to rhythms, to cycles, to truth. The moment you reintroduce sunlight in the morning, the system begins to correct itself. When you begin the day with movement, not because you feel like it, but because discipline overrides emotion, your brain rewards you with clarity. When you eliminate chronic dopamine overload from meaningless stimulation, you make space for the real rewards that come from work. Progress, faith. These changes are not just lifestyle hacks. They are spiritual realignments with the way your body was meant to live and serve. There are circuits in your brain designed to awaken when you pursue truth over pleasure, purpose over panic, order over chaos. The world will tell you you're tired because you're doing too much, but heaven may be telling you you're tired because you're not doing the right things, in the right timing, with the right focus. To rewire your fatigue is not to escape difficulty, but to submit your biology to the higher patterns it was made to follow. The switch is there. It's in the breath, in the light, in the stillness, in the action, and in the obedience to design that has never been broken. Only ignored. Your body was never designed to run on randomness. It thrives on rhythm, structure, and divine order. The fatigue you feel is often rooted in the breakdown of these sacred rhythms, especially in how your brain interacts with light. Light is not just a physical phenomenon. It is a signal from the heavens to your biology. From the rising of the sun, a message is sent straight into the deepest part of your brain, into the suprachiasmatic nucleus, telling every system it is time to activate, to create, to move with direction. This morning, light anchors your circadian rhythm, your internal clock, which governs when you feel alert, when you sleep, when you heal, and when your hormones rise and fall. If you miss this cue, if you begin your day without allowing the light to reset your biological timing, you drift into chaos. Mentally, emotionally, spiritually, artificial light at night and darkness in the morning confuses your nervous system. You start producing cortisol when you should be resting, and melatonin when you should be alert. Over time, this disorder turns into dysfunction. It doesn't just steal your energy, it erodes your clarity, your peace, your motivation to pursue what is meaningful. Your sleep quality suffers, your emotional regulation weakens, and your ability to focus vanishes. But the power to reset this system is in your hands. Just 5 to 10 minutes of early morning light, directly into your eyes, not through a window, not from a screen, activates a powerful cascade in your brain. Dopamine circuits wake up. Cortisol rises at the right time, giving you energy without stress. Melatonin is suppressed temporarily, so it can surge later in the evening exactly when you need deep, healing rest. This isn't a motivational tactic. This is biology aligned with spiritual truth. Light was the first thing created, and your brain was built to respond to it. Morning light resets not just your brain, it recalibrates your soul. It reminds you that each day is a new beginning, not driven by your feelings, but by truth. If you let screens replace sunlight, you're letting imitation replace design. But if you step outside, if you reclaim that moment of divine exposure, your brain begins to remember its purpose. Your focus sharpens, your body prepares to act, your emotions align, and your soul begins to experience the order it was made for. The sun is free. It's always there. It doesn't ask you to feel ready. It asks you to obey. And in that obedience, your body and spirit are renewed. When you follow this rhythm day after day, your energy becomes predictable. Your sleep becomes deeper. Your mind becomes clearer. You begin to realize that fatigue was not permanent. It was a consequence. And the answer was never hidden. It was rising in the sky every morning, waiting for you to see it, stand in it, and let it flip the switch that heaven wired into your very biology. Fatigue is not always about lack of sleep. Not just any breath, but deliberate, intentional breathing that communicates safety and alertness to your nervous system. God designed your breath as a built-in tool to regulate energy, focus, and resilience. Thanks. The very breath in your lungs is not an accident of biology. It is a divine rhythm that links body to spirit, brain to soul. In Scripture, breath is life. When we neglect how we breathe, we interrupt a sacred pattern meant to sustain our clarity and strength. In your brain, every breath you take sends signals through the vagus nerve to your heart, lungs, and gut. When your breathing is shallow, rushed, or irregular, your body enters a state of perceived threat, activating stress hormones like cortisol and adrenaline. These chemicals are useful in real danger, but when they are constantly elevated due to unconscious breathing patterns, they begin to drain your energy reserves. You feel tired not because your body is weak, but because your nervous system is operating in fear when it should be anchored in peace. Your brain can only focus when it feels safe, and breath is the fastest way to signal that safety. Now imagine using your breath as it was intended to command your energy on demand. A few minutes of physiological sighing, where you inhale deeply through the nose, then take a second short breath before exhaling slowly, can reduce stress in real time. It flips the neurological switch in your brain from fight to focus. This kind of breath work is not mystical. It is mechanical, and yet it is sacred. It's how your creator wired your body to reset itself. The breath of life wasn't just to start you breathing. It was to teach you how to live with authority over your internal world. In moments of weariness, confusion, or spiritual fog, your breath is your first act of warfare. It can calm a storm inside of you before you say a word, before you pray a prayer, before you make a move. When you learn to breathe with purpose, your energy stabilizes, your thoughts clear, and your connection to God sharpens. This on theory, it's design. Controlled breathing impacts the prefrontal cortex, allowing you to think with clarity, make decisions with courage, and walk in alignment with truth rather than fear. You were never meant to be at the mercy of your mood or your environment. You were given dominion over your body, and breath is part of that dominion. Most people let their breath be reactive, tied to anxiety, social pressure, or distraction. But when you make it intentional, you start to lead your nervous system instead of being led by it. This is discipline at the deepest level, not just trying harder, but breathing smarter. You rewire the circuits of exhaustion and replace them with clarity. You take back what fatigue has stolen, not by chance, but by breath. Because when you learn to breathe the way you were created to, you begin to move like the person you were born to become. Your body was never meant to stay still for long stretches of time, and neither was your spirit. No. Movement is more than just physical. It's neurological, emotional, and even spiritual. When God created the human body, He didn't design it for chairs and screens. He designed it to move, to walk, to rise, to labor with purpose. And science now confirms what Scripture has echoed for centuries. When you move your body, you activate your brain. You don't just get stronger. You get clearer, more focused, more aligned with purpose. Stillness without intention breeds stagnation. And stagnation leads to fatigue, not just of the body, but of the soul. When you engage in movement, Especially early in the day, you're sending a message to your entire nervous system. Wake up, activate, energize. Your brain responds by releasing chemicals like dopamine, norepinephrine, and serotonin, neurotransmitters responsible for motivation, focus, and mood. This is not random. This is divine biology. It's how your creator built the system. These chemicals don't just make you feel good. They make you capable. They enhance your ability to problem solve, to lead, to resist temptation, and to pursue your God-given calling with conviction. One of the most powerful, underused neurological switches for flipping fatigue into energy is simply this: intentional daily movement. Not just exercise for aesthetics, but movement for alertness, for dominion, for obedience, for obedience. It can be as simple as a brisk walk, a stretch, a few minutes of high-intensity exertion. The point is not perfection, it is activation. When you move, your brain gets the oxygen and stimulation it needs to fully function. And the fog begins to lift, the chaos begins to clear, and what once felt like heaviness begins to shift into clarity and power. It's not just physical therapy, it's spiritual warfare in motion. Movement also grounds you in the present moment. It pulls you out of overthinking, anxiety, and fear-based loops that drain your energy. Your senses sharpen, your awareness deepens, and your ability to take authority over your thoughts increases. That's not just psychology, that's neurobiology, in harmony with divine order. The brain thrives on signals from the body, and when you move, you feed your brain the raw data it needs to function at its highest potential. You train it to associate effort with energy, action with breakthrough. There's a reason why the warriors in Scripture were also worshipers in motion. David danced, Paul walked cities, Jesus climbed mountains. Movement is not the enemy of stillness. It is often the gateway to it. When you move your body, you align your spirit to move with courage, boldness, and intentionality. You shake off the slumber that the enemy uses to keep you passive, and you reawaken the calling God has placed inside of you. You begin to embody the truth that faith without works is dead, and that action, even small action, begins to resurrect what fatigue tried to bury. Fatigue doesn't always originate from the body. It often stems from the choices we repeatedly make in the mind. The thoughts we entertain, the voices we listen to, the internal narratives we allow to dominate our inner world, they all have a profound physiological cost. Every time we ruminate on fear, dwell in anxiety, or replay past failures, we activate neural circuits tied to stress and depletion. Your brain doesn't distinguish between a physical threat and a perceived one. It reacts the same. Cortisol floods your system. Energy systems shut down, and over time, you feel worn, tired, disconnected from joy and purpose. But here's the deeper truth. You were never designed to live under the rule of fear-driven thoughts. You were created to take every thought captive and bring it into alignment with truth. God did not create your mind to be a battleground surrendered to lies and fatigue. Lies and fatigue. He designed your mind to be renewed daily, rewired by truth, transformed by the word. And modern neuroscience has caught up with this ancient wisdom. Your brain changes when your thinking changes. Thought patterns are not fixed. They're trainable. They're trainable. Neural pathways either strengthen or weaken, depending on your focus. So when you habitually feed your mind with doubt, distraction, and despair, you wire your brain for exhaustion. But when you intentionally feed your mind with courage, truth, and gratitude, you begin to light up networks in your brain that are built for endurance, clarity, and strength. This is not motivational fluff. It's measurable, scientific, and spiritual. Mental fatigue is not just about too many responsibilities. It's about the weight of untrained thoughts, thoughts that go unchallenged, beliefs that go unchecked. Your brain will believe what it hears most often. So if you speak defeat, your brain adapts to that rhythm. Ein or But if you shift your internal language to hope, to promise, to spiritual authority, your brain begins to operate from a new rhythm. Energy isn't just recovered, it's rebuilt. You begin to walk not by sight, but by a higher conviction that your mind can obey your spirit, not just your surroundings. Just your surroundings. You must realize that discipline in the mind is not optional if you desire lasting energy. Just as a body without training becomes weak, so too does a mind without intentional thought. But here is the hope. You don't need perfection. You need alignment. You need to wake up each day and choose what kind of inner dialogue you will permit, because that dialogue becomes your biology. Gratitude rewires the brain for resilience. Prayer centers the mind in peace. Scripture sharpens your mental clarity and gives you the weaponry to reject mental fatigue disguised as fact. The enemy wants you distracted, overstimulated, and mentally exhausted because a tired mind won't pray boldly, won't lead fiercely, won't act courageously. But a renewed mind, one anchored in divine truth and trained through intentional thinking, becomes a source of supernatural energy. You don't just survive your day, you begin to command it, govern it, and reflect the authority placed in you. That shift doesn't happen by chance. It happens when you make your thoughts bow to purpose. When your life lacks clear structure, your brain begins to drift into a state of chronic uncertainty. And that's one of the most powerful silent drains on your energy. The human nervous system is wired to conserve energy during chaos, not to produce it. Without a clear sense of direction, your brain goes into a default mode of fatigue, because biologically it is preparing for survival, not execution. This is why people who lack a strong routine, vision, or mission often feel perpetually tired, even after rest. Your mind was not designed to wander aimlessly. It was designed to lock onto a target, to pursue something meaningful, to know why it wakes up every morning. This isn't just motivational theory. This is spiritual and biological alignment. When God gives purpose, He doesn't leave it vague. He says, write the vision down, make it plain. When you begin to structure your life around that vision, your brain follows suit. Your dopamine system, the one that fuels energy, motivation, and resilience, activates when there's a goal to move toward. It does not activate in confusion. The word teaches that without vision, people perish, not just spiritually, but neurologically, because your spirit and your brain are in agreement. They both. Now consider this: when you start your day without prayer, without reflection, without order, your mind becomes the battlefield for every distraction the world throws at you. But when you begin your day in stillness, in scripture, in a disciplined rhythm, you give your brain the clarity it needs to conserve less energy on worry and release more energy into focused action. The enemy thrives in disorder. He invades in the silence between your priorities. But when your schedule is filled with intentionality, when your heart is set on purpose, when your time is governed by values, not by emotion, your brain begins to mirror that order with clarity and strength. The absence of structure creates a vacuum that anxiety will gladly fill. That's why you feel tired when nothing is technically wrong. It's not a lack of sleep. It's a lack of mission. And the enemy knows that if he can keep you busy but aimless, you'll burn out chasing what never satisfies. But when your steps are ordered, your energy is aligned with something higher. You don't just function, you flourish. You don't just work, you worship. You become a vessel through which focus, power, and divine energy flows. The neurological switch to energy isn't just flipped by rest. It's flipped by rhythm. Your brain needs predictability to thrive. Your spirit needs clarity to lead. And when both are aligned through a structured life built around divine purpose, you begin to experience supernatural stamina. You begin to build not just a day of focus, but a legacy of excellence. The mind that is anchored in God's order and wired by daily structure becomes unstoppable, not because it avoids pressure, but because it is built to endure it with purpose.